Okay, now that we have the responses mapped and we're ready to start at least looking at the survey. So that's the first sort of step here, the survey data. So once you get your tool in, you've mapped the responses or you've imported a mapping, now we can start looking at the data. So for example, this is the first question, WH aerobics, and you can see the responses, the number of responses. There's 393 that did not respond, not a number. That's what the NaN means. And then you can see 5 major aspect, 229, 3 being some smaller ordinally it's 2 less than the 5, and so on and so forth, and 0 not at all being 64. So you can see the number of responses in your data. So I had 393 people, and it was the most that didn't answer the question. I had 229 folks say that 5, this particular question was a major aspect, or whatever this question asked was a major aspect, and then so on and so forth. You can see. So, and you can do that with every single question. I will just roll through and see. There's a lot of questions in this thing, but you can do that and kind of see what the counts are. The next one is the mapping. So you can just make sure that it's mapped according to what you want it to be mapped to. For example, this first question being WH aerobics, not in A, meaning not available or not applicable, being a -1, not answered, also being -1. And then you can see the other sort of numbers that ordinally that they were mapped to. And this makes sense. And if you wanted to change it, you could, and you could hit change and it would change it for you. But in this particular case, again, we've already mapped this thing, so we don't necessarily need to do that. So the next piece of the tool, or the next aspect of this is, so for a researcher to look in and say, are there any questions that maybe I want to get rid of? Maybe there's some that just nobody answered and it doesn't make any real sense to leave that particular thing in there. Again, you would have to go out into the CSV file and delete that question if you wanted to. You can't right now. The functionality of this app does not let you just delete that question. But so what you're looking for in this particular case are the number of missing values or more to display. So for a particular question, so 28. So if you hit OK, saying that 10. So I'm just looking like the number of missing values in a particular question. So what you're doing is you're looking at all the respondents. So in this case, we have, I'm sorry, all the questions. So these are the questions, and you're looking for how many of your respondents didn't answer that question. And it's probably in this case, you can see there's 393 for all of these different questions. It probably was a case where the question was worded in a way that made these 393 people not answer it. So it probably was that. And I don't know, I don't have access to how the question was worded, but that's a lot of times that will be what happens. So there's 393 people didn't answer this question, and it probably was, hey, order this, or tell us how important this is, or if it's not at all, then just don't answer the question. So anyway, again, that's how you've done the question. So you can see there's 28 questions out of the 232 questions where at least 10 were not responding. Oh, by the way, it was all 393 that didn't answer. Okay, so that information, all 393 of those folks are going to come out in the next one, right? When you're looking at individual responses, right? So again, and you can up and make this number bigger or larger or whatever, maybe, or you can actually go in and change it to 50, right? And those, um, so 0 out of 900 actually. So I have 900 respondents in here, and none of them didn't answer at least 50. So go back and change this to 25. And you can see, what it is because we've already sort of looked at it in the question non-response way. But at least if those 393 people did not answer at least 25 questions, you can hit the OK button, and you can change this and hit the different OK button and see which respondents did not answer the question. And you can look at each one of them and sort of decide whether you need to get rid of a respondent who didn't answer a lot of questions, right? So what did they do? They didn't answer those 28 questions that we've already seen. And here are all of the respondents that didn't do that. The problem is, or the reason why you want to be concerned about this is when you're grouping later on we're going to talk about grouping and k-means and Gaussian mixed models and all these things. And so the problem is if you have too many non-responses, then folks get grouped into those without any other data, and that's kind of what you don't want. You want people grouped together because they answered the questions the same, not necessarily because they just failed to answer the question. So that's one reason why we're concerned about that. But so those are the things that you can look at when you just want to look at the data before you really do any analysis to make sure that you have a proper set of data before you move forward.